It's not a topic that I prefer to return to, but a Linskiest imposters slash charlatans slash saboteurs slash demoralizers slash trolls are something to look for in any type of public debate, because the public debate, the public space, it's wacky. It's been pre-selected for statements that have been thunk up by sociological criminals that are all in on anthropological fabrications. So when you do see, let's say, conservative issues, just they're throwing the conservatives a bone, which is, the people that don't want to be fed into a malicious, sadistic meat grinder, don't want to be alienated in their own countries and cities and towns and places of work and online forums or anywhere else in the world. Their chess club, you name it. These are the people that would exclude you from those things, or if they could, and they're trying to figure out ways to do that because they want total social management. Which means we force you to think the way we want you to think. So this is not an anthropological fabrication. This is the truth. Everybody, repeat after me. Then, of course, anyone who's not on board with the anthropological fabrication, they're the haters, right? 1984, here we go. That's the really stupid system. Agitation, direction of agitation, definition of right and wrong. Why did they attack the church? Because the church sort of did that, but it did it for the benefit of the national populations, the people living in Europe. Let's not forget this was a European phenomenon, cultural phenomenon that came out of the Middle Ages. The Middle Ages wasn't the best of times. There was a lot of random acts of violence between people that didn't really have any commonality. So I always like going back to the river pirates on the Elbe River. These were Germans predating on Germans. Of course, some international people would take the Elbe River, but mostly it was inter-German commerce. And they would pirate the boats. They'd have a little wooden castle out there. They'd have the boats ready to go if another boat came, and they would commandeer the vessel. Either take it and murder the occupants, or extract some type of payment. Now, at some point, it became formalized in some places according to tolls, but at some point, when Germany became more civilized, they got rid of those little shabby, parasitical, and stupid operations. So, but that doesn't get rid of human nature. Human nature will revert back to that if there's a breakdown in commonality, which is also akin to the divide and conquer concept. How do you implement divide and conquer under the auspices of making progress, when in fact it's a regression to barbaric times? Barbaric societies are weak. I mean, they're certainly resistant to certain things, like public order, but they're not resistant to foreign invasion. They're not resistant to organized military organizations. They lose every time. So you can be the craziest type of anarchist. You can wear a diaper around and have yourself pulled around on a leash by your nose ring or something like that. But there's any type of like military situation, you're not going to make it. So just so you know. So, but preparing people for inevitable defeat via means of giving people the false values that lead to self-destruction, that's something an enemy would do and they have. It's all around us. Fake culture. So like fake news, fake culture. Fake news is disinformation. Fake culture is psychological, sociological attacks. The results of fake news is you're misinformed. So, the sign says turn left, but that was actually a cliff to the left. They changed the sign from don't turn left, turn right. So the result of that is they're making. Now, for the psychologists and sociologists that are enemies, then they lead to fragmentation and to an increase in mental illness, right? It leads, instead of working your way up the pyramid to self-actualization, they have an inverted pyramid. So if you are self-actualized, they want to reduce you down to the lowest levels of basic survival. Because if they can become the bottleneck between your basic survival and you, well, then you'll listen to what they have to say as despots and tyrants and political appointees, no matter how repulsive, grotesque, and wrong you may be. Because they're in on the worldly life. They're vulgarians. They're the opposite of supernormal. Like there's people that strive to be supernormal. Those are the noble people. They're the ones that strive to be even more vulgar, because they see in vulgarity a worldly power. So just as you can see holy people that are really committed to a holy life, you will find vulgarians wholly committed to a vulgar life. And they put it on display that you can see it. You can find them. You can create a causality between what they do and what they are. Sometimes what they say, sometimes not. See, that's the problem in politics. Like, they'll say the good words, but they'll do the bad deeds. And the chief bad deed is negligence of duty. So if there ever is a time in history where people like this can be categorized, you just say dereliction of duty, that's it. They were in the position, there were 1,000 overdoses. That's the sentence. And the time or whatever else punishment you want to put onto that, punishment should fit the crime, so just do think about that. Now, because I'm a compassionate person, some people would say to a fault, but I don't see it that way. But I do know that people can't always reach that level of compassion, which is pretty high level. And yet I do believe there are some people that once they're given the proper causality of what they did according to what they thought, which wasn't correct, that they can repent, that they can see the error of their ways, because it's based on a complex attack of misinformation. Again, why did you drive the Corvette off the cliff? Well, it was the sign. I didn't want that. I didn't want that for me. I didn't want it for the Corvette. I didn't want it for the environment. Yeah, but see, the causality of that is still unavoidable. So you're going to have to live with that. Now, some people do survive. They bounce back. Some people have significant physical and psychological injuries. Some of which will be fatal, that have been fatal, that are fatal. Now, some will just profess that they've reformed themselves, but not really carry the way. But again, this is their fate. Where you're going to find psychopaths amongst them. They don't feel remorse. They don't. They're physically incapable of feeling it. They're told do this, they do that. They don't have any connection with what they do to other people. So that might be also something to consider in the sentencing procedure. What type of person are you really dealing with? Also, you have to think these people have been bubble-fied, so they are insulated from the massively destructive results of their policies over time, their derelictions of duty. Their information is filtered and they're given positive feedback for the terrible things that they do and have done. So these people are not interacting with society as a whole. Maybe they were orphans. Maybe they sort of like a cult type of alienation from family structures, and then they pump them up with all of these destructive and malicious ideas and ideologies that allow these people to do such hateful, destructive things and think they're doing the right thing while doing it. It is a variation of old war methods. Oh, you're fighting for the emperor. You're allowed to do anything. That's essentially what these barbarians have been given. It's just a green light to rip and tear from the standpoint of a completely pseudo-false and inverted morality, which is based on subnormalcy. But to come back to the trolls that like to get in front of conservative venues, like just look first. What's very important is always look at externals because they're the simplest things. So, does the person look screwy? Do their glasses look screwy? Does their shave? Are they unshaven? Are they obesely overweight? Are they obese? Do they look like they came from some place that you might not know, like maybe some North African village or perhaps South America somewhere, but they're speaking in a venue in Scandinavia? Like, where did they come from again? What schools did they attend? Like, what is their life story? But see, this is what they like to do, that they're positioning themselves. They're co-opting a venue, and they're positioning themselves at the top of it, on the podium, to create a bridge of aversion, create some curiosity, and create a connection with people that would otherwise have nothing to do with them for good reason, which they don't like. They don't like that reality, so they want to flip it in a way where they get in front of the issues and then deliver a bunch of hot nonsense. If you break down their whatever they say and cross-reference it for keywords, you'll see they're pushing this form of malicious sociology, even if they're professing not to do that. So it's also like a sales technique. You know people don't want to buy from you, so you're going to sort of play to their not wanting to buy from you, and then you're going to try to sell them anyway. Like a real type. Have you ever been there? Someplace like Times Square or whatever, just somebody who will not, I don't want my photo taken by you, okay? Just go away. No, it's just, I took a photo. They have different ways of leveraging tourists. Not all of them legal. It's sort of like a gray zone. But what you do have to realize is that the time that they're wasting of that venue with venue capture is lost opportunity to hear a genuine speaker. Just also imagine paying for those fools. Like, they get paid, they get some type of accreditation by some type of organization that sounds credible, but no credible organization would boost someone like that up to a podium that is a faker, a troll. But they've done it. So then they get the venue capture. Then just think of the lost money. So you're a conservative, you pay money for the admission, and then you get that type of sales pitch. So can you get your money back? Probably not going to ask for it, but you probably won't go to the next convention they're having, or be more skeptical in general. And that's a desired outcome. They don't sell you, then at least they put you off on the possibility of having a credible opposition because they've de facto tanked it. So that gives them a little thrill too. Like, we're talking about people, the lowest of the low. Like there are, for example, in the world of prostitution, there are guys that loved being dominated. There's dominatrixes. So these little toads, they get a thrill out of trolling people that are objectively better than them. See, they think that by doing that, then look at how I'm trolling them. Like, I've trolled them, so how are they better than me? And it's all about me. They have all different types. Malignant narcissism is part of it. If you have working curators, they don't get through, but they do try. So if you have like a museum or a venue where there's extremely high standards, these are the people that bother you because they want to get in, because they think they deserve to get in, but they don't. Whereas while they're bothering you, someone that really does deserve to get in but doesn't think they do, but you have to sort of convince them, hey, guess what? No, your stuff is good enough. They're wasting the time you could be spending with someone like that. So they're not just leeches, they're some type of cultural predator. They're the cultural appropriators. Some of them are trained like human torpedoes to be just that. And some of them have gotten through, obviously. Somebody's knocking down your door all the time. I'm an artist, I'm an artist, I'm an artist. Getting paid, again, 10 figures, 6 figures. But are dressing up like starving artists. And very manipulative, like, I'm the party guy. Like, yeah, let's bust out the tequila and shots and blah, blah, blah. Let me take out a fire extinguisher and set off a party here. Blarneyist. They're part of it. They can be in on it somehow. So cultural institutions, no. You were open and free, and now you're being attacked and occupied. So unfortunate, surprising change of events. But when the Golden Horde came and burnt down Babylon, or the Mongolian hordes came down and burnt down Babylon, the Babylonians were really perplexed how that could have happened. So it's okay to be perplexed, but this is the situation. This is one part of a wider cultural war which is being waged all over the place, all the time, every day, in every conceivable way. And one in which your misconceptions, your misinformation, your ideology works against you long term, because it is part of a divide and conquer military strategy which has already started. So, what can you do? Return to basics. Don't take people at face value. Start vetting your venues much better. Don't take people's first story as the God honest truth. Don't take accreditation all that seriously. You need to look into the accreditors and the accreditation. You need to start looking at people in a much more suspicious way. And if they do fit the bill of anything I've described, just that's it. You don't have to get violent, but you don't have to get rooked either. Even if you got rooked 3 times, just give it up. Give up the habit of getting rooked. It's okay. Some people hit the bottle for a certain amount of time, then they say, you know what, one day the hangover's too terrible or what have you, and they say, I'm giving it up. And even if it is for only 3 months, it's still 3 good months. And it might turn into a lifelong habit. Although that's probably a bad simile, because if you get drunk, it's actually a good time when you're dealing with these types of fakers and usurpers and imposters and charlatans. Then not a single solitary second is a good time when they're basically trolling. See, not one of the other funnier attributes is they have like a wry expression. They can't really completely suppress it in some cases. Like the smarter ones among them, they have like this ironic laugh, like the corners of their mouth. It's just the troll face. At some point during their presentation, you'll see it at inappropriate times. You'll just think, this person is weird, this person's a little off. But then when you come to think about it later, you're like, they were trolling. Got a little funny bow tie or something like that. Some gimmick. Maybe like a gigantic gold pinky ring with a diamond on it. This is their troll. They have made it to the pinnacle of trollness, at least in their little venue, their little area of operations. They're the parrot at the top of the golden cage, haw-hawing in your face, saying something like, dummy, dummy, dummy. See, they're smarter than you. You can't see them, but they see what they're doing, and they can't really suppress it entirely. Their glee at being such botches. The botch of the botches. But it is sad when there's a camera angle and you see there's all these old heads, gray-haired people in suit jackets that really did turn up to hear something insightful. And again, the parrot can't be credible if there's not, like, let's say 50% or 60% of talking points in there that they copied and pasted off of real people. So they're going to at least hear those things, which might be shocking for some of these old heads that are stuck in disinformation bubbles. But they really don't know the half of it. And the parent isn't going to let them know the other half of it, because he also will push his program. His or her, don't forget, women are big into this. Like a lot of women, you have to realize, they don't see the point of their life being mothers and spouses. They want to be, the Queen of Sheba. And anybody or group or whatever they've been told will keep them from doing that. They'll attack them with no mercy. Attack them in the courts, attack them in social media, wherever they need to attack. That's what they'll do. That's what they've done. That's what they are. So, but which is fine. Every woman could try to become the Queen of Sheba if she wants to, but that's not really the wise path for wise women. So what does that make them, even if they're rich as Midas and have even more impunity than the stupidest of barbaric despots that are vainer than Adonis ever was? So who really cares, how they live their lives? But if they've got to get in front of a camera and start espousing retrograde values and hateful ideologies, you should just have an inkling of what you're dealing with. This is not the good wife or mother. This is some type of banshee. And people might laugh when they hear that, but look, banshee comes from an old place that you don't know about. So it's not just a little flippant insult. They did exist and they do exist. Even if it's not the physical form you're expecting. So yeah, be aware of it. Trolling of any kind, if it's not funny and it's part of the agenda, then again, you know what you're dealing with. This is someone they're not just subnormal, they're super subnormal. They're part of the wrecking operation. So a little bit more discretion is required at this time. 2023, if it didn't start, should have started a lot sooner, but if it hasn't, this is now your wake-up call. Start using a lot more discretion. And why? Because culture and social cohesion, socioeconomic and political matters do matter a lot. If you lose it, and you can lose it, societies, civilizations have lost it with devastating consequences. Now, when I speak specifically for the United Kingdom or the United States of America or Europe, that's one thing, but more or less all of us can say the same thing and be right. A short post note on imposters, however. Don't dismiss necessarily the things that they say that are true just because they're imposters, but I do realize that that is a complex undertaking and would take digestion. Ideally, these people would not be in the venue. Ideally, they would not be causing this confusion because it does take a lot of work that, again, people don't necessarily have. They might just have a vague feeling that this is an imposterous event, and they would be right, but they would maybe then not take away at least some of the takeaways that are correct. But certainly, if there's something fishy about them, don't go to them or ask them to become department heads of corrective measures, because you're dealing with imposters. So they not only want to take the venue, but they want to take the connections away from the venue and further sabotage those. So some of them will come across squeaky clean, like really polished. They'll have an emotional story about their childhood, and everything seems to be correct on paper. So Elon Musk sort of did this. They create like a legend about themselves. It's like mini public relations. But what they're doing is then getting access to people that gullibly believe the cover story, and then they sabotage anything that could lead to a correction of the situation in a favorable way for the people trying to defend themselves from these cultural and psychological attacks. So we're talking about levels of attack and levels of counterattack. But again, trust your eyes. Look at them outwardly. Now, again, some of them will go with the easy, slovenly type of way to catch them, but some of them will try to be super polished. Like everything is always super polished. Even if they're looking casual, it's super polished casual. Because they're really, they've realized that perception is reality in their case, because it's all about making you perceive them to be a certain way for their ruse to work. And it does work. So especially if they're able to get in front of a camera, not just the venue, but in front of a camera in front of the venue, they can have a multiplier effect of rubing rubes with sabotage. And you would think, well, this was the premier expert that came out hard. He wrote a book. You know, he's this, he's that. But he just doesn't look quite the part, does he? There's something, it's a little bit fishy about that story. Something like how, now I know a lot of people that come from impoverished backgrounds, but how did they end up going to an Ivy League school again? Like, what? Something disconnect here. The story just sounds too good to be true. You know? Why were they selected in the first place? So yeah, it's an onion of deception. These people think they're super clever, and some of the results they get, like defrauding investors of billions of dollars and remaining a billionaire themselves. I mean, they're not proved wrong in a lot of times because they're able to con their way into unimaginable amounts of money and unimaginable damage that they cause, that they don't care about, again, because it's all about them. You know, this is their way of framing themselves that gets them the most success. Also betraying the people that have an axe to grind against anyway, because they don't accept them even though they're so talented. So I'll show them type of personality that they have. So do spot imposters. There's a lot of different ways. Some of them are polished chrome torpedoes. Some of them are less polished. It really also does depend on how much they respect the venue in the first place. Like if it's something about cultural integrity, they'll usually send sort of like a bummy, clownish, buffoonish type person. If it's something that could negatively affect corporate policies that have become toxic, then they'll send in a really polished chrome torpedo. You'll see those also in political circles. I'm morally upstanding, and by golly, I stand behind the things I believe in. These are all just things that they've been told to repeat robotically. But if they're looking really polished in a very expensive suit, then, well, why not just believe them? It's the con man, right? And we're talking con men that think themselves that they're at the top of the top. These are not pikers. These are players. These are pros. So pro baseball and the baseball you're playing at the in the parking lot, that's two different worlds. You see, they're in the professional world. So they do take it seriously. They'll also adapt. Like they'll adapt to circumstances because they're professionally into the imposterous way of presenting themselves. They really do take that seriously. You could also see there is an Asiatic connection there. You know, Asiatics have been doing that for many, many, many centuries. Like they really do take care of their public persona. Now, the discrepancy between old Asiatics and the new ones, or the new versions of it, is that there's no genuineness behind the face at all. In fact, there's malicious intent. So in the old school, it might have just been something that they had to do out of social necessity. The new school is doing it for the purpose of attacking and debilitating large social groups that would otherwise determine their social structures in such a way that doesn't allow for predation and for disruption. But of course, the geopolitical forces that are behind these people, they see that in a different way. They see that type of destruction as a good thing because it just opens up real estate for them, assets, and possibilities in a zero-sum game. So do keep that in mind. I would not take too many people, and I also wouldn't be, not take too many people at first glance, and certainly not based on their accreditation. It might also be not worth a damn. Or, in fact, misleading, which is sort of what it is. So that's funny. There was also that movie, I think it was... who was it? Famous American actor. He dressed up as an airplane pilot, walked around, and he got all different types of benefits that way. People would not have questioned him when he was cashing phony checks and stuff. So this is just a state of mind for these imposters. They don't see the world as being a fair place that they were born into, so they've gone on to develop different ideas, predatory type of ideas that have a different set of morals attached to them, which aren't really congruent with good philosophical insight. So be advised, yeah, they're all over the place. They're not just trying to sell you lemons, they're trying to sell you culture these days. If you look at all of these cultural attacks not in a personal lens, then you can stop also taking it personally. It wasn't you, it wasn't yours, it wasn't the planned trajectory of culture, it was an attack on it. And the strategic decision for doing that was that it would strategically weaken some perceived counterparty. And so how do you do that? Well, culturally is probably the quickest way. You get rid of a culture of excellence and replace it with an anthropological fabrication. Then job done. It just takes a little bit longer, but start with the courthouse not working, lawfare. Start with, a lot of things that can really make life nearly impossible to live correctly if you have people that can just predate with impunity, that do not have scrutiny as far as a free press is concerned. In fact, they have public relations campaigns instead for pay, for hire type thing. And then you just have to realize how many journalists that they have to get rid of for that story not breaking the news. Because people that are greedy for everything, basically, because it doesn't just stop with money, they want social acclaim, they want Scooby snacks, they want gold stars, they want to be the best of the best. They're narcissists. That's the clinical definition. You combine it with an infinite rat pellet machine that they can shoot at anything and make it go with money, but not with values. You can imagine how demoralizing people like that can be for a workforce over time. And we're talking decades in the U.S. at this point, but the last 30 years have been pretty bad with all that regards. So, but that's just history, right? The victims are left in the past. But what are victims? It's very easy to say, he did this, he did that, which is another form of delusion one can have, is blaming others, of course. This is not helpful. This is a normal way of seeing things, but it can also be a subnormal way of seeing things. And in that instance, it should not be imbibed. It should be seen for what it is, and it should be dispensed with. Why should one make accusations against people that might not be directly involved or have the responsibility in the first place? What part of justice would that be? Where you can just say, okay, an entire demographic, we're going to attack them, and then we're going to win a war sometime in the future, but that time might not ever come. But what you do is end up further destabilizing the own rickety ladder that you're standing on while you're trying to change a light bulb with the wrong tools. So how often does something like that go well? It's not going to go well for them. But it hasn't really been going well for them. So this is why they came up with this Hail Mary type of cockamamie dart thrown back into our goalposts, right? The goalpost came from behind with this one. But on the other hand, what have we really lost? See, if you can lose agitation, if you can lose irritation, so don't let yourself get worked up about stuff that is propagated all at once. The results of that is it results in a crowd, and that crowd gets out of control, and it's the definition of heedlessness that takes place there. So I understand managing our attention spans and what we focus on and what we don't focus on is very difficult. I understand that. We are all human beings. But the supernormal path and practice is not to look towards agitation and not to engage in it. That is not the right path. The right path is to avoid foolish people, but also not necessarily need super noble people, although it's quite beneficial to have them around who are well cared for, well attended to, but not too much. But if you don't have that, and when does anyone ever have that? When crisis has come. You need to have the practice in you, not to be agitated at agitating things. See, this is a great way of doing it. It's not that the things are not agitating. That's indisputable. It's that you're not agitating yourself, which would be a bad thing in itself. So how could it be good? This is a skill, it's a talent, and there is no unbreakable causality between agitation and yourself. These tools can and have been misused, and people misuse them to their own detriment, but that need not be so. They can be used for uplifting messages in times of doom and despair. That carries one up like a swarm of swallows flying in the skies. Over twilight cornfields. I've noticed that a certain type of agitation can, from time to time, influence what I say. And there's something to be said for that, but the best thing that can be done is to overcome one's own agitation when communicating that which one feels prompted to say, given the circumstances which are not inconsiderable and therefore should be heard, not for the sake of the embellishment of the messenger's vain ego that would draw out the duration of an explanation that could be said in just a few words, and yet look how many words he spoke to us to tell us why the practice of mental hygiene and spiritual resilience always works. And it works the right way at the right time. In the right way, which might not be as provocative as an exterior audience might expect, because you're not on the stage for an exterior audience. It's your own play, your own life. your own method, your own practice, your own achievement, your own accomplishment, specifically the personal ones. The lowest, the dumbest, the most painful ones, that those are no longer there. In this vain attempt to shackle you to some worldly dispute need not hold you there, because they do not bind you, because they do not reach you, because they are not there. That is liberation. Being a friend of democracy, also being a friend of persuasion instead of force. But persuasion, persuading people to their better selves, their better deeds, their better words, their better actions, their better personal rituals, and also political positions, which are social positions, which people should make. Free societies can be flourishing societies, but we don't really have that right now. And so instead of just incessantly criticizing the defects that are manifest, it takes a special type of person to get beyond what is not perfect and working with what we have right now, however little. We've only got these boards. We don't even have nails. We have to think about maybe sawing limbs, twigs, and tying them together somehow until we come up with a better idea. And the thing is, this is just the natural process. They say necessity is the mother of invention, right? It's necessary to become innovative because you need some boards over your head for shelter. So if the democratic process is not working, if it is being attacked by outside forces, if it's being jammed up deliberately, then we need to recognize those efforts, but also make some counter adjustments. See, not attacking them, not engaging them necessarily, but making counter adjustments in how we perceive people who are in political office, like getting beyond their personalities. And so, what should be done, and how are they doing it? And if there's not a genuineness there, if it's not authentic, if it's off by just even a little stinky degree, and these people should be observed because they're in the public eye, because they've taken public office, they should be scrutinized and criticized. And if they're working for their own minority interests or minority interests globally, most people won't have something from their cockamamie schemes, then they should be exposed and they should be booed out of the public sphere. That's how democracies work. They're not just booed, because sometimes these people won't go. That's what venue capture is all about. Oh, no, we're going to stick to the rules here. I won the election. But I haven't delivered on anything that I emphatically promised the public. Like, what? That's a breach of trust. That's what it is. So you decided to do that for some abstruse reasons, or abstruse reasoning. That's not the public's problem. Just get out, go. You tried, you failed. Next one, please. That's sort of what democracy is about. Like living democracy is like an arena. You give it your best shot. You try to be the person singing the song the best, and you flop. Get out. Boo, you suck. It didn't work out for you. Especially the vanity, the vain ones. Throw them out. Let them give them a taste of reality. And let me tell you, back in the old days where there were not all these funny money shilly-shally games going on, if a theater did not produce engaging entertainment and at least attempted to make the actors look qualified in the eyes of the public, they collapsed. Nobody went there. They were done. That was it. Went to the other theater that, by a miracle of God and a lot of generous people with a lot of taste, may have sponsored in their wisdom for their own enjoyment and the enjoyment of others. Some of the enjoyments that they just vulgarly enjoyed in their contemporary time has benefited untold millions of people with uplifting cultural brilliance. Poets, writers, artists of every kind. That's what gets people through life. You have to allow for the arts. You have to allow for democracy, allow for feedback. These people just gumming up the situation and playing power politics with goons, that never goes good for the people. It never goes good for the culture. It doesn't. These people are totally deceived. It's the thief's paradox. Why is everything going so well for me and not for anyone else? Well, you don't deserve it. You don't deserve the position. Just because you're going to take over the leadership position and drive the country into ruin, make all different types of traitorous decisions that negatively affect the country for years to come. That you're not worth it. You're not. You're nothing. You're just a bag of guts and a mouth and an ass. Just like every other person, even if you don't think that's the truth. It is. No better than anyone else. But to pull one over on the public, rob them blind, and then just think your Blarneyism is going to carry the day. I mean, there's been all different types of people who have done foolish things and have received the foolishness back heaped upon them in unforeseen ways, disastrous, embarrassing, demeaning ways. Do they not say, pride cometh before a fall? I wish those words were more precise, that we could modernize them a little bit more. But the way pride has been also misused in our time is actually a pretty good way of putting it, if you update it to the modern inverted vocabulary. Proud of subnormalcy, more like it. Why shouldn't you be subnormal? That's your place, right? They're the ones that don't follow that advice. If they can. I don't think they can avoid it, being involved in such deceptions. They can't. But there's no reason why the public should put up with charlatans. Why should they? So take the focus off the charlatans, put the focus on the process. I love the concept of a feedback culture, yeah. You go to a bad restaurant, they sell you they sell you a burger, and you bite into it, it's half frozen. And the plate's dirty, and the waitress is got a mouth on her, slow. Cigarette butt on the plate. Yeah, do give a little bit of feedback. Let other people know. Don't go there and don't spend your money there. That's the least you can do for your fellow men and women who don't have the money to waste on bad burgers, bad service, and bad governments. These public officials, put them all in the feedback culture. What have they done again? What did they say again? Who are they again? Where did they come from again? What's their story again? A lot more investigative journalism into these questions. Because the damage these imposters do is tremendous. It's breathtaking. It's mind-boggling. It's way worse than you think. They're totally wrong and putting the total wrong people in the total wrong positions. It has a multiplier effect in the thousands of millions of billions of trillions. So yeah, do you think you're a Democrat, you take democracy seriously? Well, you need to take these buffoons more seriously that aren't being vetted and are selling the damn country out to a bunch of ridiculous ideas upon further inspection. And these ideologies and these anthropological tropes, they should be scrutinized. What are they saying again? We're going to do this bad thing and then good things are going to happen? That's not how it works. A little bit more investigation. Allowing for things to unfold. Well, they said this, but actually this happens. So ergo, that's not a good idea to do that. Raising taxes here is not good, but raising it there is good. And here's why, and it's counterintuitive. That's noble governance. The intuitive thing is not always the right thing. However, the intuitive thing in some cases is the right thing. There's imposters about, you need to eject them. It's really sad that they even attempted to do it, but you will find shameless people that will attempt anything, especially sabotaging great cultures and amazing civilizations and peoples for personal benefit. As low as that sounds, it's true. They're here amongst us, predominant in our time. As surprising as that may sound, it's the truth. Well, you can be surprised. You open the door, there's a gorilla in your bathroom. Oh my dear Lord, what do you do? Slam the door, run away? Well, how about this? Feedback culture isn't just blind rage. How about a little bit more wit, charm, intellect, a little bit more humor? I think, look, humor is underestimated. Like, I'm on the gala wall, hands above me, I'm hanging, I'm still busting jokes. I will bust a joke like a buster will bust somebody in the face for looking at him crooked. I'm hanging on the wall. I got a long gray beard and a big shaggy mane. That's it. So look how far resilience can take you. Resilience into comedy itself. What a wonderful place. Much better than the bridge of aversion that leads to hell realm. So I don't advise that bridge, but I do advise the other one. So again, returning to the concept of triumphant, that's how we're living under the worst, most wonky and trolled conditions no matter what. That's it. They control, you control back. Use a little bit wit and charm and intellect, and not just a little bit. Because democracy has worked and can work again. But it is about giving feedback where it is deserved. And where things aren't working, where people are messed up and don't belong, then let everybody else know you really are doing the world a service.